and welcome back to the cabin. I'm so glad to see you. We have a special guest. My mother, Nana, is here. And when I was your age, just little, one of my favorite things to do was to listen to you read me stories. It just made me so happy. So I'm so happy that she's going to be reading some Christmas stories with us. Yeah. And are you baking cookies in the kitchen?
Oh, yes.
Lovely. I love cookies. Okay, I'll read the first couple and
I will
then
bake cookies.
wonderful. Thank you, Nana. Our first story is Mortimer's Christmas Manger by Karma Wilson and Jane Chapman. Are you ready? You are? Here we go. In a big house lived a wee mouse named Mortimer. He dwelled in a dark hole under the stairs. Nobody ever noticed little Mortimer, and Mortimer liked it that way. But he didn't like his hole. Too cold, too cramped, too creepy, squeaked Mortimer. Each day he snuck out and crept about looking for crumbs and tidbits. One day, Mortimer spied something new. What he spied was wonderful. He saw a huge tree covered with twinkling lights. Nestled on top was a bright, shining star. But something even better than the tree itself sat next to it on a table. Mortimer sighed with delight. A house just my size. But the house was so high and Mortimer was so low. I'll climb up the tree, said Mortimer. It made a perfect ladder for a mouse. Up, up, up Mortimer climbed. Down, down, down ornaments crashed. Oh dear. Finally he reached the table. Perfect, said Mortimer. Not cold, not cramped, not creepy, cozy. But who are you? Mortimer had never seen people so small, almost as small as himself. He had never seen such strange animals either. Tap, 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 Mortimer knocked, but no one answered. Tap, 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 no one moved an inch. I see, Mortimer squeaked. You aren't real, only statues. And so Mortimer lugged and Mortimer tugged. One by one, he dragged the statues out. Then he reached the smallest statue. He saw it was a baby in a wooden bed, just Mortimer's size. No, there's no room for you here, Mortimer said. Out you go. Then into bed crawled Mortimer. He fell fast asleep in the soft, warm hay. The next day, as Mortimer crept about, he found good things to eat. Cookie crumbs, fruit cake morsels, and spicy peppermint candy. But when Mortimer scampered back up to his new home, the statues were all set up again. No, 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 squeaked Mortimer. This won't do. There's no room for you. There's only room for me. And so Mortimer lugged and Mortimer tugged until all the statues were out. And stay out, he said. Then into the bed crawled Mortimer, and he fell fast asleep in the soft, warm hay. But each day, while Mortimer scurried about, the statues were set up again. And Mortimer always lugged and tugged them back out. Then, one day, Mortimer set out and saw the big people gathered around the tree. He couldn't go out there, so he hid among the statues. A man started talking. Mortimer listened, and what he heard was wonderful. Since it is Christmas Eve, I shall tell the Christmas story, said the man. A long time ago, in a little town called Bethlehem, Mortimer heard about people named Joseph and Mary and a bright shining star. He heard about shepherds watching their flocks by night and traveling wise men. The men continued, "There is no room for them at the inn." Then Mortimer heard about a baby who was born in a stable and had no real bed but slept in a wooden manger, a baby born to save the world. "And his name shall be Jesus," said the man. Mortimer looked at the bright shining star on the tree. He looked at his new home and his new bed, and he looked at the statues. Last of all, he looked at the baby. "I see," sighed Mortimer. "You weren't just any statue. You were a statue of Jesus." Mortimer sniffed. Mortimer snuffled. A tear rolled down his furry cheek. "There was no room for you at the inn, but I know where there is room," he said, and so... Mortimer lugged and Mortimer tugged. Soon he dragged all the statues back to where they belonged. Last of all, he laid the baby in the manger. "This belongs to you," he said. Mortimer smiled. "You look warm and cozy now." There was no place for Mortimer to go except back to the cold, cramped, creepy hole. As Mortimer scuttled down the tree, he said a prayer. "Jesus, you were born to save the world. Perhaps you could also bring me a home?" And then Mortimer spied something new. What he spied was wonderful. Mortimer sighed with delight. A house just my size. There were no statues in sight, and so Mortimer moved right in. "Thank you, Jesus," said Mortimer. "You've made room for me, too." Oh, isn't that lovely? And that's the end. I hope you enjoyed this story. One more. Our next story is Mouse's First Christmas by Lauren Thompson and Bucket Erdogan. Are you ready? "'Twas a night still and starry, and all through the house not a creature was stirring. Just one little mouse. Mouse was peeking all around to see what good things could be found. Up on the table, Mouse found something sweet and sparkly. It was a cookie. And something warm and melty. It was hot cocoa. And something cool and sticky. It was a candy cane. Next to the window, Mouse found something jingly and glinty. It was a jingle bell. High on the mantel, Mouse found something soft and belty. It was a stocking. And something white and floaty. It was a snow globe. And something tinkly and twirly. It was a music box. Then, there in the corner, Mouse found something tall and prickly. It was a tree. And something boxy and ribbony, and lots of them. Presents. Then Mouse found someone whiskery and jolly. Who could that be? It was Santa Claus. And Santa whispered, "'Tis your very first Christmas, and all through the house no one is loved more than you." Little Mouse. Did you enjoy that? I did. And next, Nana's going to come and read you some stories.
Our next story is The Oldest Elf by James Stevenson. It was almost Christmas. All night long, Santa's workshop buzzed and hummed and screeched. Colored lights flashed on and off. In the stable, the reindeer had a hard time trying to sleep. All those lights and noises, said Prancer. I can't get any rest at all. How soon is Christmas Eve? Asked Donner. Tomorrow night, said Dancer. Thank goodness, said Prancer. In the workshop, the elves were building video games that beeped, helicopters that whined, dolls that walked and talked, fire engines that wailed, racing cars that went wherever they were told to go. Anyone need more batteries? Said Santa Claus. The only quiet place was a room in the cellar where nobody ever went. It was a room where Elwyn, the oldest elf, made toys. In Elwyn's room, the sounds were soft, sandpaper smoothing the deck of a wooden boat, or a brush painting a piggy bank. Sometimes it was Elwyn himself, humming a tune from long ago. It must be getting close to Christmas, said Elwyn, and I still have lots to do. He searched for a calendar. At last he found one, but it said 1984. He went up the stairs to the workshop. What day is this? He called to one of the younger elves. The day before Christmas Eve, Elwyn, said one elf. That late? Said Elwyn. He put the wheels on a pedal car. He tied a ribbon on a china doll. He painted a set of blocks. He squirted oil into the wind-up toys and made sure each one had a key that worked. He fixed the strings on a wooden puppet. He tuned a small guitar. He brushed the mane and tail of a rocking horse. He polished the brass buttons on a toy soldier. He wound a toy cuckoo clock and set the hands for just before the hour. A minute later, a bird popped out and said, "Cuckoo!" When Elwyn was all finished, he put the toys in a sack and dragged it slowly up the stairs. The workshop was silent and deserted. Elwyn put on his coat and hat. He pulled his sack outdoors and over to the stable. He saw hoofprints and 2 tracks of Santa's sleigh. The tracks went a short distance. Then there was just plain snow. You missed them, said an old voice. They left 20 minutes ago. Who's that? Said Elwyn. It's me, Blitzen, said Blitzen. Oh, hello, Blitzen, said Elwyn. Did you miss them too? Heck no, said Blitzen. I got too old for these last-minute rides through the night. No more on Donner, on Blitzen for me. What do they do without you? Asked Elwyn. Oh, Santa found a doe named Josephine, said Blitzen. Now I stay home in the warm straw. I guess you deserve a rest, said Elwyn. What's in the sack? Said Blitzen. Toys, said Elwyn. I made them myself. It's a shame you missed the sleigh, said Blitzen. All that work for nothing. This is a very sad Christmas, said Elwyn, and it's all my fault. He began to walk away. Good night, Blitzen, he said. Good night, Elwyn, said Blitzen. Then he saw that Elwyn had left his sack. You forgot your toys, he called. But the wind was strong and Elwyn was too far away to hear. Snow began to fall harder. Soon the toys were half buried, and after a while they were just another lump in the snow. Elwyn was dozing in his chair when there was a tapping at the window. It was Blitzen. Elwyn opened the window. Snow flew into the room. Say, Elwyn, said Blitzen, I've been thinking, I'll bet there are kids who would love to get those toys of yours. Too late now, said Elwyn. Oh, don't be so sure, said Blitzen. Grab that toboggan and come over to the stable. When Elwyn got to the stable, the toys were nowhere to be seen. Elwyn and Blitzen searched and searched, but the snow was deep. At last they gave up. Oh, so much for Christmas, said Elwyn. Well, at least we tried, said Blitzen. Hey, what was that? What was what? I heard a sound, said Blitzen. They listened. Then they both heard the sound, coming from under a snowdrift. Cuckoo! Cuckoo! The clock, cried Elwyn. He started digging in the snow, and in a moment he had found the sack. Let's go, said Blitzen. It's getting late. What do we do? Said Elwyn. Get my old harness from that big peg at the back of the stable, said Blitzen. The reins are on the shelf. What about these bells? Said Elwyn. Want them too? Oh, might as well do things right, said Blitzen. This will probably be the last Christmas ride for both of us. Elwyn climbed onto the toboggan behind the toys. Ready when you are, he said. Well, what do you say? Said Blitzen. Oh, you mean on Blitzen? Said Elwyn. That's correct, said Blitzen. On Blitzen, called Elwyn. Blitzen broke into a run. The bells began to jingle. The toboggan went zigzagging across the snow, and soon Blitzen's hooves were no longer touching the snow. The toboggan swung into the sky. Hang on, Elwyn, cried Blitzen. We're on our way. After a while, they saw a city down below. Santa's sleigh and the reindeer were standing on a rooftop. Blitzen landed the toboggan next to them. Look who's here, said Donner. It's Blitzen. I can't believe it, said Dancer. How did you get here? Oh, I know the route, said Blitzen. And he's very fast, said Elwyn. Just then Santa Claus popped out of a chimney. Oh, my goodness, he said. Blitzen and Elwyn. We brought some extra toys, said Elwyn, if it isn't too late. Oh, never too late for toys, said Santa. He pointed to the east. You deliver in that direction, and we'll deliver over here. He jumped onto his sleigh. On Prancer, he called. On Dancer, on Donner, and Josephine, said Josephine. Oh, of course, said Santa Claus. On Josephine. Santa's sleigh soared into the sky. Ho, 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 he cried. On Blitzen, said Elwyn. We haven't missed Christmas after all. How about ho, 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 called Blitzen. Ho, ho, said Elwyn. Louder, said Blitzen. Louder and jollier. Ho, 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 cried Elwyn as they galloped through the night. And that's the story of The Oldest Elf. Our next story is Melrose and Croc by Emma Chichester Clark. One day before Christmas, a small green crocodile walked down a busy street, carrying a suitcase. Not far away, a yellow dog named Melrose was opening his front door. Little Green Croc had come to the city to see Father Christmas at the big department store. He was so excited. He looked at the piece of paper again. It said, "Come and meet Father Christmas at Harridge's. Make your dreams come true." Tomorrow, thought Croc, will be wonderful. Melrose had also just arrived in town. He was decorating his new apartment. Oh, I wish I had someone to do this with, he said to himself. I wish someone else could see them. He looked at the box of Christmas tree decorations. I may as well put these away again, he thought. There's no point in having a tree just for me. That night, as Melrose gazed at the view, he sighed, It's Christmas. I should be happy, but I feel sad. Little Green Croc looked out at the great dark sea. He was too excited even to sleep. In the morning, Croc arrived at Harridge's. Can you tell me the way to Father Christmas? He asked. Oh, I'm afraid you've missed him, said the manager. He was here last week. He's busy now. It's Christmas Eve. Croc felt like crying, but he didn't want people to see. I'm hopeless, thought Croc. I've got everything wrong, and now I'm soaked. Little Green Croc burst into tears. It didn't matter anymore. Melrose hadn't seen Croc or the puddle. He was still finding his way around town. I wish I could find a way to cheer up, he thought. And I wish I could find a friend, he sighed. A lady was giving away surprise presents. For you to share, she smiled. Oh, thank you, said Melrose, sadly. Croc found a place to shelter from the snow. How foolish I was to come, he thought. A tear dropped onto his suitcase. Then suddenly he heard music. Lovely music. It rang through the air. and he followed it. Little Croc forgot everything. He whirled and twirled. He glided and slid. Melrose was there, whirling too. He flew faster than light. He felt lighter than air. If only I could skate forever, thought Melrose. If only I could just skate forever, thought Croc. They swooped and looped. They zigzagged left and right, faster and faster, until crash! Oh, said Melrose. Oh, cried Croc. I'm so sorry, gasped Croc. No, I'm sorry, said Melrose. Come on, let's go and have some tea. They sat and told each other everything. And now Christmas is ruined, Croc finished. Then Melrose had a brilliant idea. Come and spend Christmas with me, he cried. We'll get a tree, and Father Christmas will come. Croc wiped the last tear off his nose. I'd love to do that, he said. While Melrose cooked dinner, Little Green Croc decorated the tree. Look, cried Melrose. I told you he'd come. There he is. And the next day was Christmas Day. All my dreams are coming true, said Croc. Mine too, said Melrose. All I wanted was a friend, and I found you. And I found you. Happy Christmas, smiled Croc. And that's the end of the story of Melrose and Croc. And our last Christmas story today is a poem, A Visit from St. Nicholas. Clement Moore wrote this for his own children on a Christmas Eve more than 200 years ago. And today, we're still reading it on Christmas Eve. And tonight, we have Michael to read it for us.
'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The moon, on the breast of the new fallen snow, gave a luster of midway to objects below. When what my wandering eyes should appear but a miniature sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer, with a little old driver so lively and quick, I knew in a moment it must be Saint Nick. More rabbit than eagles, his coursers they came, and he whistled and shouted and called them by name. Now Dasher, now Dancer, now Prancer and Vixen, on Comet, on Cupid, on Donner and Blitzen, to the top of the porch, to the top of the wall. Now dash away, dash away, dash away all, as dry leaves that before the wild hurricane fly, when they meet with an obstacle, mount to the sky. So up to the housetop the coursers they flew, with a sleigh full of toys, and St. Nicholas too. And then in a twinkling I heard on the roof the prancing and pawing of each little hoof. As I drew in my head and was turning around, down the chimney St. Nicholas came with a bound. He was dressed all in fur from head to his foot, and his clothes were all tarnished with ashes and soot. A bundle of toys he had flung on his back, and he looked like a peddler just opening his pack. His eyes, how they twinkled, his dimples, how merry, his cheeks were like roses, his nose like a cherry. His droll little mouth was drawn up like a bow, and the beard on his chin was as white as the snow. The stump of a pipe he held tight in his teeth, and the smoke had encircled his head like a wreath. He had a broad face and a little round belly that shook when he laughed like a bowl full of jelly. He was chubby and plump, a right jolly old elf, and I laughed when I saw him in spite of myself. A wink of his eye and a twist of his head soon gave me to know I had nothing to dread. He spoke not a word, but went straight to his work and filled all the stockings. And then with a jerk, laying a finger aside of his nose and giving a nod up the chimney he rose. He sprang to his sleigh, to his team gave a whistle, and away they all flew like the down of a thistle. And I heard him exclaim, ere he drove out of sight, Happy Christmas to all, and to all a good night.
We hope you've enjoyed these Christmas stories. And from our little family to yours,
Merry Christmas!